Hi, friends. All right, so this is the absolute last of the Franklin books. And there's a reason that I waited so long to do these books because it's going to seem kind of silly to read these books right now as we're going into summer because one is Franklin's Christmas and the other one is Franklin's Halloween. But you know what? I would feel silly also if I left them out and didn't read them. So let us read them. And then we will move on to our other books. So Franklin's Christmas Gift. Oh, right. Franklin loved Christmas. He could name all of Santa's reindeer. He could tie ribbons into bows and play Silent Night on his recorder. Franklin liked to give presents and to receive them, but this year he couldn't decide what to give to the Christmas toy drive. It's good that he's giving to other people. Every December, the students in Mr. Owl's class donated toys for needy families. The toys could be new or carefully used. When Mr. Owl put out the collection box, everyone was excited. They had 3 days to choose the perfect gifts to give. That evening, Franklin dug up his toys and he picked up a shiny red car. I remember this, he said, wheeling it around. Vroom! Next, Franklin pulled out a stuffed elephant and held her tight. I wondered where you had gone, he cried. It's purple. It's my favorite color. Then Franklin found his best green marble. It had been missing for weeks. Fantastic, he shouted. Franklin loved his marbles. He had won every marble in his collection, and each one was beautiful. Franklin picked through the rest of the toys. He decided to keep everything but a rusty truck with a missing wheel. Is that something that's been carefully used or something that somebody would consider trash? Do we give people trash? That's not giving graciously. Let's see what happens. Franklin asked his father to help him fix the truck. Oh, okay. We can try, said Franklin's father, but it won't look new or even gently used. It's all I have. Everything else is too special to give away. I'd like you to think about that, said Franklin's father. Christmas is a time to give and to be generous. To be generous means to give without expecting somebody to give you something back. It means you give from your heart because you want to, not because you want them to give you something back. The next day at school, Franklin asked his friends what they were giving. Beaver was donating her big book of questions and answers. I already know all the answers, she boasted. I'm giving a puzzle, said Bear. I only did it once. Franklin frowned. I'm giving a truck, I think. He had 2 days left to decide. But Franklin was too busy to think about the toy drive. He played the recorder in his school concert, made a card for Mr. Owl, and wrote a holiday story. I'll pick a toy after school, he promised himself. When Franklin got home, there was a gift for him under the tree. It was from his great Aunt Harriet. Franklin was so excited that he forgot all about choosing a gift for the toy drive. Uh-oh. Franklin squeezed the present and shook it. No peeking, laughed his mother. Do you know what it is? Asked Franklin eagerly. It must be something special, his mother smiled. Great Aunt Harriet always gives presents that mean something to you and to her. Like last year, said Franklin. Great Aunt Harriet knew that he loved to put on plays, and she gave him 2 puppets that had been hers when she was little. It was one of Franklin's best presents ever. The next day at school, the collection box was brimming, which means it's overflowing. You've all been very generous. Remember what generous means? It means you give without expecting anything back. Said Mr. Owl, do you know that your gift might be the only one that someone receives this holiday? Franklin gulped. He'd never thought of that. He had to bring a present tomorrow. Hopefully he remembers. Franklin raced home after school and looked through his toys again. Somebody else might love Elephant, but she was worn from so many hugs, and Franklin wasn't sure that the red car went fast enough. Franklin was upset. At first, all his toys had seemed too special to give away. Now nothing seemed special enough. Franklin played with his puppets and thought about how Great Aunt Harriet chose her gifts. The best presents are special to give and to receive, he whispered. Then Franklin saw his marble collection and he knew that marbles were special enough for the toy drive. Franklin polished them and put them into a soft purple bag. He wrapped the present and made a gift tag that read, "These are lucky marbles. Merry Christmas." The next morning, Franklin put his presents on top of the collection box. Then Franklin and his friends hauled, which means that they moved it, but it was really heavy, so they had to use a lot of their muscles. Franklin and his friends hauled the box to the big tree at the town hall. They placed each present under the tree. Franklin knew he would miss his marble collection. Still, he didn't feel at all sad. Instead, he felt good all over. On Christmas Eve, Great Aunt Harriet came to visit and Franklin was allowed to open her present. He ripped off the paper. "It's perfect," he said. "Thank you." Great Aunt Harriet beamed. She had made a stage for Franklin's puppet shows. "Now open yours," Franklin insisted. Great Aunt Harriet unwrapped her gift slowly and carefully. Inside was a play written by Franklin and dedicated to her. "This is my best Christmas present ever," said Great Aunt Harriet. Franklin got that good all over feeling one more time. Wow, so Franklin is learning how to give generously. Do you remember what that word means, generously? If you give generously, if I gave you, let's say I gave you my scrunchie, generously. I give you my scrunchie. Do you have to give me something back? Nope, I gave you my scrunchie because I wanted you to have my scrunchie, because maybe you needed to tie your hair up, or maybe you thought it was so cute you just wanted to wear it yourself. It happens. I'm a teacher. I give my things away all the time. All right, friends, let's do the Halloween one, and then we'll be done. Franklin's Halloween. All right. Franklin could count by twos and tie his shoes. He knew the days of the week. Do we know those? We do. The months of the year. Do we know those? We sure do. And the holidays in every season. This is just like how the other book started. Today was October 31st. It was Halloween. Franklin could hardly wait for tonight's costume party. Everyone would be there. Franklin and his friends had talked about the party for weeks. There would be games, prizes, and even a parade. Best of all, there would be a haunted house. "I think there'll be bats and spiders," said Franklin. "And skeletons," added Beaver. Rabbit shivered. "My sisters say she saw a real ghost in the last year." "That's silly, Rabbit," said Beaver. "There are no real ghosts." I don't know. All of Franklin's friends were excited because of the costume contest. Franklin wasn't sure what he was going to wear. He tried on everything in his dress-up trunk, but nothing seemed quite right. Oh, he's got a hat. He looks like a detective and a king and a silly man, maybe a clown. I don't know. I think they're all cute. Beaver and Goose were keeping their costumes a secret. "Try to find us at the party," they giggled. Fox was also mysterious about what he was going to be. "Look for something gruesome." Gruesome means gross, kind of yucky, he said. That gave Franklin an idea. He would be something creepy. It took Franklin more than an hour to make his costume. As soon as it was done, he sneaked up behind his father and tapped him on the shoulder. "Trick or treat," said Franklin. "Ah!" gasped his father. "Who are you?" In his deepest, spookiest voice, Franklin answered, "It's me, Frankenstein." Ooh. A turtle does make a good Frankenstein. On the way to town, Franklin tried to guess who was inside each costume. "At least I don't have to worry about finding Bear," said Franklin. "He's always a ghost." Maybe not this time. By the time Franklin and his parents arrived, the party had started. Franklin spotted a ghost at the apple bobbing table and hurried toward him. "Hello, Bear," Franklin said. "Ooh," answered the ghost. "That's good, Bear," said Franklin. "You sound really scary." Franklin bobbed for an apple. Then he ran to the pumpkin toss. It was his favorite game because he always won a treat. Franklin's bag was almost full by the time the judges announced the costume contest. While everyone lined up for the parade, Franklin tried to find more of his friends. He thought he recognized Beaver and Goose, but where was Fox? They marched around the building twice. Franklin made a horrible monster sound and shuffled with stiff, straight legs. He won a prize for being the best green monster. That's cool, he won. There was only one more thing to do. Go into the haunted house. "You first," said Beaver, pushing Franklin toward the door. It creaked open and a skeleton rattled. Chains clanged. There were moans, and Franklin stepped on something crunchy. Suddenly, a big, hairy hand reached out of the darkness. Franklin's heart began to beat hard and fast, but before he could scream, a light flickered on. "Trick or treat!" shouted Mr. Mole. Franklin looked around nervously, then he laughed. The hairy hand was only Mr. Mole's mop. "Here's a treat for braving the haunted house," said Mr. Mole. "A ghost came before you. He got so scared that he flew away." "But Bear can't fly," said Franklin. "It wasn't Bear," explained Mr. Mole. "Bear is homesick with a nasty cold." Franklin shuddered. If Bear wasn't the ghost, then who was? He ran back to his friends who were waiting in line for the haunted house. "Was it that scary?" asked Fox. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe he has." "Maybe I did," said Franklin. He told them what Mr. Mole had said. "You mean that Bear was never here?" asked Beaver. Franklin shook his head. The ghost flew over them. It swooped low and called, "Woo!" Rabbit twitched. "So what is white says who and flies?" "A real ghost," answered Goose. "Run!" Who do you think it is? Franklin was about to follow when he saw a feather floating down. "Stop!" he shouted. "I think I know who the ghost is." Franklin showed them the feather. "Look, it must be Mr. Owl." Even Rabbit giggled when he realized the trick their teacher had played on them. By the end of the party, everyone's bag was full. "Poor Bear," said Raccoon. "No treats for him." "We could share our treats with Bear," suggested Franklin. All the friends agreed. They each put some treats into a bag. Then they walked to Bear's house and left the bag on the doorstep. "Trick and treat," they called. On the way home, Franklin looked into his treat bag. "Goodness," said his mother, "you have enough there to last until next Halloween." "Maybe," said Franklin, sampling a few. But secretly he hoped the treats would last until the end of the week. Oh, that's too much sugar, my friends. And that concludes our Franklin books. There's like 23 or 24, something like that. But that was a lot. Thank you for going on that Franklin journey with me. I'm so glad that we did that. And now stay tuned for Rainbow Fish. And then we'll see what comes after that. Thank you for joining me on this supplemental video, and I will see you tomorrow for Circle Time.